terrible credit repayment history, as well as people who have no money down. That's right, no money down. They are located at 6385 North Federal Boulevard with great auto inventory. Give them a call at 303-298-1155. That's Magic Financing, features Marble the Magician. They're open Monday through Friday till 8 and Saturdays till 7. Check them out. That's Magic Financing. Call them today at 303-298-1155. Tell them that you heard about it here at KUHSdenver.com. Also, visit us at www.magicfinancing.com.
Good afternoon and welcome everybody to the council. It's been a long time. I hope everybody's been doing really well, and since the last time, it's almost been a month since we've been on the air here with everybody, and I just want to thank you all for tuning in every time we come on the air here at KUHS Radio TV Denver. It is just an honor to be here, and to be broadcasting from the beautiful city of Denver, Colorado, and we're broadcasting not only here, but all across the nation and all around the world. Tuning in from all over in Asia and India and Afghanistan, Pakistan, Europe, Greece, Italy, England, South America, Argentina, Brazil's in the house, other places down there, Peru, all over the United States. Thank you for tuning in and listening to us here on the council. We are broadcasting live here at KUHS Radio TV Denver, and we just have some of the best DJs around and bringing you the best programming, the best music and dance and everything that is leading us to make a better world for all of us. Our goal is to be a light in the world where people can come to and listen to us and be able to have the important discussions that we need to have to bring our world closer together. And that's why the council is so happy to be here at KUHS. We are just bringing people together to talk about the issues that are important to them. And last night, folks, we had I do these Gathering of Warrior events where we have people and invite people to come on to talk about issues concerning veterans and increasing the community, helping people to understand the challenges that some veterans face, not all, some veterans face, and how we can heal and grow from those wounds. And one of the things we had on the gathering yesterday is we had a woman come on her name is Linda Tai, and she was a Vietnamese refugee. She came to Australia and then eventually to America, but she was one of the boat people that was had to flee South Vietnam after the American presence after we left there. And her story was incredible, and so many tears were shared and understandings of a flight that very few people understand and know about. When we left Vietnam, a lot of the things that we did is we just blocked it out. We didn't want to we didn't want to remember it. It was a black stain on our dark stain on our history, our heritage, and we just wanted to forget about it. But the consequences of war don't just leave because we left. A lot of the times the people that were there were affected by these things. And so she shared her story to our group, and I'm so grateful and thankful that she did. Everybody who was there was deeply, deeply touched. And I think I think we got to have more conversations like that as I've been reflecting on it, because very often we don't hear those stories. We're just so consumed about our own world and the things that are happening, and we want to make sure that when we go to war, we go to battle, that we're doing it for the right reasons. And sometimes when you hear stories where people or their lives are put in jeopardy because of our actions, it makes you question, making sure, are we doing the right thing? Are we fighting the right battles? Are we making the world a better place? Because that's ideally what we're doing is we want to be, making sure that we're on the right side of freedom and liberty and justice for all, and to make a better world for everybody. And we need to learn and hear those lessons if we've done something that maybe wasn't in the best interest of other people. So I'm hoping to be able to engender those kinds of conversations and bring people more on board that have stories that need to be heard, that need to be shared, so that we can become a better and wiser community and nation as a whole. And one of the people that I've been so happy to be introduced to is my guest here that we're about to talk to. And he is doing the same kind of thing where we're both veterans coming out of our experiences and seeing that there's a cross-section of different things and bringing the civilian world and the military world, the veteran world, all of this together so that we can really get a clear understanding and tapestry of the nature of the veteran experience and how that intersects with the civilian world. There is a social contract that we have with the warriors and military members and the society at large. Essentially, our contract is that we're going out there to protect and defend and preserve life for you, and your job is to help us when we come back. And if we're wounded or broken or hurt, you'll help us to regain a sense of the goodness that we started out with when we heard that call and we raised that hand. And please, that's our there to take care of us when we come home. And sometimes we miss the ball on that. And so people like Robert here are doing the things that they can to make this world a better place. Robert Layhup is the founder and executive director of Bullets and Band-Aids. Robert joined the Marine Corps Infantry in 2000 and was part of the initial push into Afghanistan during Operation Enduring Freedom, where he received a certificate of commendation for his participation in the capture of the Kandahar airport, as well as the Navy Achievement Medal for the taking of the embassy in Kabul. Having left the Marine Corps as a sergeant, he began working with artists in multiple different media, often raising money for charities. Before founding Bullets and Band-Aids, he dedicated hundreds of hours and raised thousands of dollars for local charities, as well as volunteering to teach creative writing to underprivileged children in and inmates in detention centers in North and South Carolina. He's a graduate from the University of South Carolina, where he won awards for outstanding work in the fields of writing for media arts. He is also a member of the Global Alliance for a Peaceful Earth, or AGAPE. Their website is www.bulletsandbandaids.org. That's bulletsandbandaids.org. Robert, welcome to the council.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
It's an honor to have you, sir. I mean, I've had a chance to get to know you and to talk with you, and you were referred to me by a dear friend of mine, Athena, and I just would like for everybody to get to know a little bit more about your background, and could you just share about why you joined the military?
Well, there are a few different reasons. I think one of them being that I had a kind of a dynamic childhood, we'll say, and so I'd pretty much been, left alone long enough to, get into trouble here and there, and I still had the want to do good, to help people, and I figured because I had already recognized at a younger age that we were in fact all in this together, that I didn't know how to give back, how to show people that I genuinely wanted to invest in whomever it was that I was speaking with one way or another. And so the best way that I could think of to both give back while also finding some sort of responsibility was going to be to join the military. And at the time, I thought, like, what I thought was the hardest branch at the time, was the Marine Corps. And of course, that's entirely subjective, given your experiences.
Yes.
And
well, I think the Air Force is known as like the, we have the couches and everything while everybody else is, doing the work. So.
But that's, I mean, I've got friends of mine that were in the Air Force that have been through some pretty incredible things.
Mhm.
So I don't want to downplay their capacity at all. Yeah, so I figured like the hardest thing in the Marine Corps would be the infantry. And yeah, so off I went.
Did you know what you were going to get into when you joined?
I had what I thought was a pretty solid understanding. Of course, all of us think that because we've seen the stories, either in movies or just passed down, that we have at least a vague idea of what's going to happen. I think one of the things that we don't pick up on is that these movies, these stories, they're about someone else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like anything that happens to you is going to be your story and not anyone else's. And so, I found a band of brothers, that much is true, but there were also significant negative things that I either left in Afghanistan or brought back with me that, I wasn't expecting.
Which is very common. I mean, that's part of the universal experience of being a soldier, a Marine, an airman, seaman. You're going to get those experiences because you're going to be changed by it. You're being asked to do things that the majority of the population is not asked to do, and so it's going to change us in some ways. But there are also things that we love about the service. I love the camaraderie. I love the men and women. I mean, I thought they were just top quality. Some of my dearest friends. What did you love about the service, and also what didn't you like about it?
One of the things that I loved the most was the idea that we recognized that we're all green. Like light green, dark green, it didn't matter, we're all green. Yeah. And so the conversations that we had were entirely all of these identifiers that people would pick up once they got out, that they would have to defend for whatever reasons, weren't important at the time because our focus was a common goal. And I do entirely miss the open dialogue and the comfort of support that was in fact there, even though we didn't know it. Now, granted, there were things that were reinforced that I wish hadn't been. But one of those things that did matter was that we were collectively sharing a goal, and in doing so, sharing our lives.
I think that's so critical. That band of brothers, that common goal. We're here for each other, and that love of that brotherhood is it's like uncomparable. I mean, it's just really strong.
I do. If you don't mind, I think I should add the caveat that there are a lot of people out there that don't necessarily have that feeling. If for whatever extenuating circumstances, whether it be that I don't know, there have been people that were shunned for specific reasons that so when they got out, I'm sure they kept some sort of disdain because they weren't given that, and I've experienced that as well, in certain circumstances. So it's not like a broad sweeping thing. Not everybody is going to find that band of brothers until they get out, in which case it's actually like, the romantic aspects kick in and we're like, man, I miss these people. And then after that, it's reinforced.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. We've had people on the show that talk about things where that was missing, where we just recently had someone spoke about the military, sexual trauma and rape that has been going on. And so there is that violation, that betrayal of that, here I am at a team that's looking out for me, and oh my gosh, now they just violated me, and where do I belong? And my gosh, this is the worst betrayal that could possibly happen. So you're right, that does happen. There are members that have experienced the opposite of what we're talking about.
And I just think that's because we're trying to run the gamut of stories through bulletsandbandaids.org. We can't discount the value of their stories as well. So
it's critical. Now, what was you were in Afghanistan, Robert? What was, I mean, that was pretty intense fighting that you were there and you engaged in. What was the most profound, intense moment that you had while you were there? And I guess what I'm asking, is there a memory that really stands out above the rest?
There were some moments that were of such extreme that I will remember very, very subtle details.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's whereas so much of it is kind of blurred. I do know that I've had a couple of friends that were tortured before they were killed, and you know, like a kid getting killed with a rock. Well, I'm sorry, I'm laughing, but it's like it hurts, and I'm you know, this is actually a common reaction. Is smiling and laughing about it, because it is it is of such an extreme.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there was one guy in particular that I had made friends with who didn't speak English, and I didn't speak Dari. Yeah. And yet over the span of several months, we would attempt to talk, and then realizing 5 minutes later the ridiculousness of the situation, we burst into laughter. Yeah. You know, I would give him just a you know, a little bit of money, and he would go out and we'd eat pistachios, and every 10th one tasted like the monkey cages in the zoo smell. It was like a messed up Christmas, but it kept us going, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, but then he was, you know, tortured to death. You know. Yeah. So that actually, that is the most profound thing that has ever happened in my life. The relationship that I had built with this man is one of the most defining moments that I can think of. And I think because this happened at a young age, I dedicated myself to making up for it. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I just have to work with nonprofits. Mm-hmm. You know, I have to do my very best to enforce to others that everyone has value. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, reinforcing social cohesion, so that things like that aren't accepted. So that's actually like one of the founding reasons why Bullets and Band-Aids is a thing.
It's amazing.
Is because of that.
It's really, thank you
Sure.
for sharing that. There are those moments that we have in life that change us, hopefully for the better, that are monumental watershed moments that wake you up to a reality that you suddenly say, wow, you know, we need to make a shift here. We need to make a change here. And thank you for sharing that with us and our audience, because that's really, sometimes that can be very difficult. So thank you.
Well, absolutely. I think having told my story makes it easier for me to discuss it.
Yeah. Well, and it also gives other people permission to share their story as well, because when they see that kind of honesty, vulnerability, and truth, and you are able to share it with such a large group of people that are tuning in and watching and listening, it gives people permission to say, you know what, I can do the same thing. Maybe somebody can hear my story now too. No, I no longer have to carry this alone anymore. So, thank you.
Thank you, sincerely.
So, when you got back into life and the arts. And what was that? What was the reintegration process for you? Did you have a difficult time? And what led you to seek out the arts?
Well, I'd always appreciated art, you know, in whatever form you found it, writing, music, visual art. It had always been pushed into my head that it was very important. I didn't know until later that the idea of visual art, bare minimum, being a sensory metaphor would allow us to relate to it in ways that we wouldn't typically allow ourselves. But so that had carried on throughout. But once I had left, I had kept the idea that I was going to die the next day, and I stayed that way for about a decade.
I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so it made it the way that I was acting made it difficult for people to understand where I was coming from, and because of my previous experiences, I had also distanced myself from a lot of military things in general. It hurt too much. It got to a point where, you know, even when I was listening to the national anthem, it was bittersweet. It just and I couldn't speak to anyone about it because I personally hadn't addressed it. So that was how it was, and of course, like so many other veterans who are going through the same things, I had you know, issues with substance abuse and violence, and honestly, suicidal ideation, which is just typical, and I'm not scared to talk about it, because it's just you know, it's a part of our human journey, one way or another, and here we are.
Well, it is, and you know what? When you're saying those things about the, you know, I went through the same kind of thing of substance abuse, drug and alcohol addiction, severe chronic depression, suicidal ideation, and I was a non-combatant. I was working on the nuclear warfare program. I was in charge of these mobile units that would only be used to conduct end-to-end nuclear war, and I was like, you know, this is wrong. What are we doing? This is insane. And so, but the journey itself is universal, you know, it is. And so, to get through to the other side, you've made it. And that's what's so beautiful, that you've gotten to that other side, so you can show people how you did it, you know, how you were able to get there. And so, how is it, you know, in your healing, is it critical to be able to share your story in a meaningful way that benefits others when they're surrounded by the darkness around them? I mean, I know it was important for me, but how difficult was it for you to be able, you know, it took you 10 years to be able to start to piece together all those little disparate elements so you could finally get up in front of a group of people and share your story?
I think honestly, at the time, I'd been doing a lot of writing, and I had tried to help out as often as I could, but I still had this feeling where I had nothing to lose. So I wasn't scared. It was just, you know, what was it Mark Twain said? When the mobs and the press and the whole world tell you to move, your job is to plant yourself like a tree by the river of truth and say, no, you move. Yeah. And so I just kind of decided to own it without worrying about what other people thought about it. And so the amount of freedom that came not simply from writing it, but from knowing that other people had recognized it was profound. It was entirely profound. And it took an inspiration for me to do it. I had to be held to the coals, basically.
Ah, okay. And you were able, that inspiration that allowed you to do that, is that what ended up leading you to doing that TEDx talk that you did, which was so brilliant, and open it up? I mean, could you describe how you came up to that moment? I mean, to be able to share it, and what those feelings were like that you were going through?
I think given the agency, given the opportunity, I felt as though it was my duty, basically, to acknowledge it and to voice it, because it's not, you know, my oath of service didn't stop once I got out, so it was the only way that I knew of to help and to know my place in the world.
Yeah.
So that's like given the opportunity and being able to do, you know, like on a platform like a TED Talk, you're not going to phone it in. You know?
That's true.
So, like you lead into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's and even then, I still managed to get choked up. I couldn't help it. The feeling of the alleviation of weight, having finished, like at that very last few sentences, when I realized that I had done it, I had voiced what it was that I was attempting to do. I broke down a little bit. I caught myself.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like such was the power of being able to, you know, express myself to society and be a part of it. So it was huge. It was a big deal. And that's so Bullets and Band-Aids is trying to offer that style of agency,
yeah,
to all these other veterans. It's just.
So is that, I mean, that's a perfect lead into where we're going now. It was to talk about Bullets and Band-Aids. You know, was this where it started to germinate or to begin? How did Bullets and Band-Aids come into being, and what does it want to address?
Well, so I had always, again, I could always recognize that we were all in this together, and with that, I recognized that there was potentially support if you had the courage to ask for it, but also a responsibility. And I thought, you know, so much of this is reinforced through dialogue, and everybody is especially nowadays, is so reticent, so scared to have conversations with people that aren't exactly like them, that it robs everyone of you know, the reason why we're here, which is to experience. Are you familiar with Carl Jung?
Oh, of course. Yes, I studied during my graduate studies. I studied it.
So he said, as far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light of meaning within the darkness of mere being, right?
Yeah, that's so great.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I mean, his mind was just so profound. We were so lucky to have him.
Entirely. That's a great way of putting it.
Just.
And so, like, in my estimation, that means to experience, and because, you know, I can't just hop on a plane and go to Papua New Guinea, it's got to be through storytelling. And so the social cohesion that's been brought on by storytelling, I mean, like, if you think about it, that's how we know about medication and how to, you know, build knives and all of these other things, that it was fundamentally a portion of our human condition. And given the sensory metaphor that art presents, if you put those two together, what you have is a culmination of human experience that can be shared and celebrated. And I think that has been a mortar for our society that's just not been there. And I think, like, as a society, that we are estranged from one another, and just like anyone that's estranged from anyone else, there's a mourning and a dull, aching want to have that resolved. And so I figured that this would be the best way that I personally would be able to affect change. I'm sorry.
I just think it's brilliant. You know, I think it's really beautiful, and how you're able to because one of the things about the elements of a healer are really good is understanding that you have 4 different salves. You know, singing, dancing, story making, storytelling, and silence. You know, and that's so basic, and that goes back to our early ancestors, and that's how we were able to communalize the things that happened to us, the things that we experienced. You know, when warriors in ancient cultures would go out, they would go out and they would fight the battles, they would protect the tribe, they would protect the clan, whatever it was, and then they'd come back and they'd share the story with everybody. This is what happened to me, this is what goes, and then all of this, and I did this, and all. And it was communalized, it was shared. You did this for us, we do this for you, so you, but we don't have that. And so you're filling in a gap.
Contract.
Yeah, it's that social contract. You're filling in that gap for people in a brilliant, brilliant way. And so let's just talk about how does Bullets and Band-Aids benefit those involved?
So the great thing about Bullets and Band-Aids is that if you participate, it benefits you. Mm. So as a veteran, as a writer, as an artist, as somebody that holds the venues, as people that support us, anytime you touch it, it's going to benefit you. Mm-hmm. The veterans get the release of telling their stories. They get the agency to be able to. Mm-hmm. And I've had veterans approach me before saying, I would not have been able to tell my wife this story were it not for Bullets and Band-Aids. Wow. But then also recognizing that they are reinforcing that there is support and understanding and commonality can reinforce their own purpose and nobility in a way that you cannot discount. And also at the end of our touring art exhibit that we have, they get a high resolution print on canvas of one of their selected pieces. It doesn't have to be theirs because not everybody wants to be reminded, but yeah, so they get that as well. And we also partner up with other local nonprofits in order to provide them, the veterans, a means of getting these resources that they might otherwise not have known. And that's just the veterans. The artists get 40% of the auctioned off work. Mm-hmm. The writers are, bare minimum get published. We're going to be putting this into the Library of Congress.
Wow. That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, and the touring aspect of the show, gives everybody involved on a micro and macro scale. What's the term? Exposure. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And all of this while celebrating our common human journey.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to kind of like move to the question because people will be asking, the human journey. What about my journey? I'm not a veteran. Why is it just veteran stories? Why not everybody's story?
So, the reason why we're using veteran stories is the hyperbolic nature of them. But let's also keep in mind that this is a veteran-centric art therapy nonprofit, which means the stories themselves should have a veteran-centric focus that does not necessarily need to be told by those veterans. We've had people donate poems we had one person donate a poem from their brother who had committed suicide. Mm-hmm. We have another in our upcoming show who's a Medal of Honor winner, but because he jumped on a grenade in Vietnam, his sister is going to be telling that story. Wow. And so you don't have to be a veteran to be able to tell the story. Mm-hmm. Having said that, though, there was a parable, the parable about the Zen master being chased off of a cliff by a tiger. And as he's falling, he catches himself on the roots of an overhanging tree. And once he comes to terms with the idea that he's either going to fall to his death or climb up and be rent by that tiger, he sees in front of him a strawberry. And he reaches out, plucks it, and tastes it. And it is the most extraordinary strawberry he has ever had. And the thing that underscores that is the threat of death. But beyond that, in a very real way, that strawberry wouldn't be any more delicious than any other strawberry he'd had. Mm-hmm. And that Zen master would recognize, as a Zen master, that he's not special either. We are literally talking about having the soul of a human being and what would otherwise seem potentially mundane to be celebrated. So humans and the world and our integration into it we are attempting to understand. That's why veterans do it.
I love it. I'm so glad you brought that. I was hoping I was going to tell that Zen story about, because there's so much there. It's so rich, because we have our fears in the tiger, and again, it's all connected to death. And you're about to fall, you let go, and if you just take the moment to eat that, it's the best, because you're in the rapture of life in that moment, and that's the best thing you can do right there. I mean, and it just speaks to, letting ourselves be present right now with each other, because that's all we have. You can allow those fears to devour you, or you can or you can let go and just drop and surrender, and eventually, if you can enjoy that strawberry. Oh my gosh, I love it. It's so great.
Thank you.
What's that?
I said I'm excited about it.
Yeah, no, it's great, man. It's great. I love too that bullets and band-aids. One of the big things, and we just touched on it here just a little bit, but you're dealing with fear. You're addressing fear and how we approach it. We all experience it. We all have it. Buddha talked about it. It's as a universal truth, one of his noble truths. Life is dukkha. It's suffering. How does bullets and band-aids address fear?
So I think by offering a large swath of different styles of story, and by working around these identifiers to show the soul behind it. A perfect example of this, actually, and I'm sorry I keep on bringing up quotes, but these are very succinct ways of putting it. Are you familiar with Dune?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember seeing that as a kid, watching the old movie, right, Dune? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was also a book by Frank Herbert. They're coming out with another one. But regardless, there's this thing called the Litany Against Fear, right? And it says, I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I must master my fear. I must allow it to pass over and through me. And when I turn my inner eye to where that fear had begun, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. That I, that's what we're addressing.
Yeah.
That's the monk on the cliff.
Yeah.
That's how we are trying to show that we have so much more in common with one another than anything we could possibly do to separate us.
I love it. That's a great quote, man. Robert, that's a great, yeah, that's, boy, isn't that such a, part of it's an archetypal journey of life, addressing that fear, meeting it, and getting to a place of fearlessness. Courage and fearlessness to be able to deal and live our life to the fullest without feeling under threat, without having that. Oh, it's
Which allows you, that allows you, you were mentioning Dukkha earlier. You're familiar with Atman, yes?
Oh, yes.
All right. So I look at that as basically being a neuron that's begging for synapses. So these individual people, these souls that we're addressing, want these relationships.
Mm-hmm.
They want these neural pathways from one person to the next to function and work off of one another.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to, provide that.
Yeah, that's so great. Now, what are could you describe to us some of the stories that you have covered, just to give us an idea? You've talked about a couple, the Medal of Honor winner who jumped on the grenade, and what you've learned. I mean, in these tours that you've done and the stories that you've collected, could you give us just some idea about what you've learned and discovered about us humans? It's a loaded question, I know.
Yeah, Taylor, there's so much that I could say. I do know that, first and foremost, every veteran has stories about this, even if they don't think they do. A small story just to address this. I was interviewing somebody at one point, and they said, I don't have a story for you. When I got back from Vietnam, people were spitting on us. So I decided to do my own artwork, and it helped. And it's not for anybody else. And you know what? when they, like everybody, you can see it right behind their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
They want to spit on you again.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, you just told me 4 stories. Like, you literally just told me 4 stories.
It's true.
Yeah, but there was one, like some of the conversations I've had, there was a Navy SEAL that, who had been in Syria, Sierra Leone,
Mm-hmm.
Afghanistan, Iraq. I asked him where the worst place he'd ever been before, and he said, New Orleans.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was one. We have another one coming up. It was a friend of mine who used to be a corpsman who joined the Marine Corps Infantry. And I had spoken to him recently. It had been a while since we touched base, and it turns out he'd gone on 10 tours.
10?
10, yes. And he wrote a story about watching and hearing and like taking in a river immediately after his truck had been hit with an IED.
Wow.
How it was just like boom, river. The existential occurrence that happened with that is incredible. But we've also covered things like weaponized pride. You know, like, yes, I'm proud that I shot this guy, and when I'm in a bad mood, I'll go to my Foot Locker and I'll pull out the thing he was wearing, and somewhere inside I smile.
Yeah.
That's not to say that's a good thing, but it is to say that that man was trying to express himself.
Mm-hmm.
He was trying to find out who it was that he was amidst everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, speaks volumes. Yeah, we've covered LGBTQ issues. We've covered sexual assault. So what we're trying to do is use poignant stories to reinforce not simply the threads that bring us together, but we are in fact cut from the same cloth.
It's great. It's great. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And you're giving this connection, this integration of the human story along with writers and along with artists. Now, when they have this story, could you describe the process again? And then how does this definition of bullets and band-aids how does the viewing of these pieces together with civilians, with other people, how does that get people talking? How does this collaboration create the synergy that enables healing to happen?
Absolutely. Okay, so what we do is we interview veterans, we get their stories, and then we have local civilian writers write those stories, and then local civilian artists do something based off of that. And through the dialogue that happens there, and the justification that each one of these people sees in the value of collaboration, as well as the dialogue and the exchange that goes along with the people that come to the exhibits themselves, because the artists are going to bring people, the writers, the veterans, and through that there's going to be dialogue and communication and a celebration of this event together. And then what's more is that we create a book that has the story juxtaposed to the artwork with the artist's statements in the back, mm-hmm. In order to have people be able to take it home with them. So one of the great things about art is that, including writing, is that it literally transcends time and space, which is why we can dig Van Gogh, or like Monet's or something. So that book, if it's on a coffee table or something like that, can start further conversation.
Yeah. Well, and I think being able to have that with the veteran story and the people talking, it engenders the ability for people to really get a grasp, an idea of people's experiences that they may not have understood before in a context that is digestible for them. Where sometimes you can't hear everything, but I can get that. I can get it from that painting. I can get it from that little story. I can get the essence of it, and now I understand. Now I can relate. now I can embrace you, now I can see you. And it is about being seen, right? I mean, it's about us seeing each other and hearing each other, listening to each other.
Absolutely. If you show up with the spirit of collaboration, then you can allow, even if you're not aware of it, that visual metaphor allows you to apply who it is that you are to this piece. So, like if you're listening to music, it's you're recognizing the tone that you just heard. You're digesting the tone that you're listening to, and then the third is the expectation of the next note, which in fact makes you a musician. If you look at a piece of artwork and you say, I wonder why they did this, I would have done this, that means that you have applied yourself to that work of art. And in doing so, you are allowing a perspective that is outside of your own.
That's great.
How do you think so?
What are some of the things that veterans, let's say they're hearing, they're listening to us talk about it, they're very interested in what you're doing at Bullets and Band-Aids. What are some things that they can expect if they want to participate?
Okay, so if our website, so we're asking people to do three things. One, check out the website. Two, donate. Three, tell 3 other people.
Yeah.
That's what we're going for. On our submissions page for the website, it has what to expect as a veteran, what to expect as a writer, and what to expect as an artist. And it goes through specifically, like step by step, how it is that we have done these in the past and how it is that we expect to do in the future. So if you are interested in being a part of it, if you are a veteran, a writer, or an artist, or know someone that is, you can go onto our submissions page, and because we are a rolling show, we will eventually be in touch, and we can, have you participate in the future.
So great. Now, is the scope? What is the scope for Bullets and Band-Aids? Is it? Are you just limited to U.S. veterans, or is this a worldwide, international? I mean, what's the scope that you have?
Well, our goal, our watershed goal, was to have 2 people from opposite ends of the same conflict be in one show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was our goal. And then COVID hit. And so we were thinking we had reached this watershed moment 5 or 10 years down the line. But because we had to focus our attention on online presentations, sky's the limit. So now we have 2 people from Argentina, someone from Liberia, someone from Zimbabwe, 2 people from the UK, someone from the Netherlands, at least 1 person from Palestine, at least 1 person from Israel. So right now our focus, the touring show that we have coming up, is going to be centered in the Carolinas. That's just because we need to, we want to make sure that we give all of the attention we can and that we have everything down as a nonprofit to make sure that all of our ducks are in a row. Having said that, we are entirely an international nonprofit now. I had no idea, and it's been a tidal wave. It's been a tidal wave of influence and support, and now I think our next show, depending on how big it is, it's definitely going to be bare minimum the Southeast, if not spread out throughout the United States.
That's so great.
Well,
wow.
the cool thing being that all because we have, this is going to probably be dorky, but it's operational. So once we have the operational cost taken care of, everything is less expensive, and we can get larger, faster. So it's just set up to, and we have all of these different stages of development, and it's happening.
So how many cities are you going to tour when you get? When is the tour actually going to happen?
It's going to be in November, and right now we've locked in 4 cities. We're trying to go for 5, but Yeah, so that is what we're. It's going to be again focused in the Carolinas this time. But with the we have people on the board that are out in LA, Long Beach, people in Florida. Our intention and our momentum is going to make it entirely possible for us to grow and quickly. Yeah, I'm very excited. As a matter of fact, we've got a guy that was an advisor to the last 3 presidents that's on our board.
Yeah, I saw that. That's amazing.
It's wild.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that's when you know, I think when you have, Robert, when you have little synchronicities like that come in, and you have people that believe in your work, believe in what it is that you're doing, and understand how valuable it is in order to create the conversations and the storytelling that is so necessary for so many veterans. What people don't get is that the number of veterans that are committing suicide well exceeds what we lost in the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. What we're doing is not working. A lot of them feel alone, isolated, alienated, unable to speak their truth, unable to be acknowledged. They're not being seen. They're not even being given an opportunity to be able to, be around with other people that really understand, what they're going through. And so that's why it's so important to get your work out and other people's work out, so that we can show that there are places, there's resources out there, there's people out there that can really, really help you and help make a difference.
It's acknowledging your tribe, one way or another, and allowing your tribe to recognize you as well. Yeah, absolutely.
What are you attempting to create by bringing all these veterans, writers, artists together from around the world?
I think especially given that globalization has such a coin toss of good and bad, what we're doing is having people that are having the best portions of a person create the best portions of a society that reinforces the best portions of the world, given that we're all human.
Yeah.
So if we can tamp down on things like suicidal ideation, domestic violence, drug abuse, by reinforcing that the responsibility and the support that comes along with being all in this together, then that will allow us to get that much closer to the great mystery, or God, or however it is that you allow yourself comfort and the ability, the platform to also do good in your own right.
Yeah.
So some of this is actually measurable, and some of it is not. And the measurable parts, we're good with. That's fine. We already have those on lockdown, no stress. But on top of that, it's those that are immeasurable. Those that pick up the book from the coffee table, for example. Those that are allowed the opportunity to speak, with their father about about what's been going on, or their friends. There's so many people out there who don't talk about the issues that they've been going through, and in that loneliness that has been socially contracted. If you have things like if you tell your story, you weren't there. Like, that's crazy.
It's like, what? Wait a second. Yeah, I think I was there.
It's the same thing. Like when I used to teach the inmates, 2 things that would totally hit home with them. One is that there's 2 types of good people in this world. Those that fight off darkness, and those that fight toward light. And the other being the idea of like crying, making you less of a man. When in fact it's like that's a physical response to an emotional occurrence, or sometimes even a physical occurrence. The only thing that would make you weak would be to stop yourself from doing it because other people are telling you to.
Exactly. I don't know where that came from, Robert, I don't know how we got into that place where we couldn't be humans and express emotions. You care about people, my goodness. If you lose someone, well, you should be able to mourn and cry and grieve for that. That's part of the human process. Well, I don't know where it got into our mental construct that we couldn't emote, that it was somehow not manly. I found it makes you stronger. It makes you more resilient. It makes you healthier. It makes you wiser. And it doesn't take anything away from courage under fire or challenges. None of that at all. You're just no longer under the cloud of emotions that have not been processed that might force you to act out on those emotions in a way you wouldn't have done if you'd have cleared that stuff out.
Absolutely. It's a responsibility because to express and tell your story and share it, even if it's just on paper by yourself.
Yes.
Because if you are hurting those people that you love, those people that are around you, is it not still your responsibility to address those things?
Yes. Yes.
You know, and if that's not your responsibility, then you need to recheck that oath you took.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
I do, man. I do. I do. I love on your website, when I was looking at your website, you have this thing. I want you to touch on it here a little bit before we close the show today. But you say that you are more than a nonprofit. We are far more than a nonprofit. We are a movement. I love it. What do you mean by that?
So the amount of people that approach us while we're doing these shows is so many more than we initially have being a part of it, because everybody sees the value in this. Everybody does, because it affects everyone in a positive way. Like this is like almost a perpetual motion machine, like almost, and it's put together with through a lattice. So if one person falls out, you still have the lattice. This thing is built to a place where something were to happen to me tomorrow, somebody else could take my place and keep it going. And then we're also like spreading through these different countries already.
Well, it's feeding a need. I mean, you're bubbling up. I mean, if you can reach across, because again, and we've hit on this, and this has kind of been a driving point. These are universal themes. The warrior experience, the soldier experience, is cross-cultural. It is not just us. It is universal. It is global. And so those stories are bubbling up in the access and the ability that this provides them, a way that helps them to interact with another human being, to be able to have their stories written in a way that highlights and keeps their dignity and respect and maintains that sense of goodness about them, and then being able to share that and at a piece of artwork and touring that. It's so great. And it goes beyond language too. It goes beyond that. It goes to that universal human spirit that lives in all of us, and we just happen to be a unique expression of our own soul of that universal experience. So,
absolutely. And it's dignity. You had mentioned dignity. It's all about dignity, because it's there. Everyone is deserving of it.
Boy, it sounds like you love what you do.
I do. It's a wonderful thing to be a part of, let alone to help create one way or another. It's just to know that that if anyone touches this, they benefit somehow. I'm very proud to be a part of it.
How can people help you, and how can they get in touch with you? If they're listening from the Southeast, in the Carolinas and Georgia and that area, how can they find out about information on the show that's beginning in November, right? It's starting in November?
Absolutely. So we, again, check the website, donate, tell 3 friends. That's what we want. Check the website, donate, tell 3 friends. But also, on the submissions page, there are, things for writers, veterans, and artists that they can fill out, where we we check those, and we will be referring to those in the future one way or another. So you don't have to necessarily be in the Carolinas or Georgia or Florida. If you want to participate in this, you can be from anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's why we have these people from Liberia and the Netherlands and Argentina and all these other places. Is that it doesn't matter where you are, you can participate in this somehow. If not in this upcoming iteration, then the next one, or the next. And as we expand, we are going to be hitting up different regions with their own individual bullets and band-aids set up, so that they will also have the opportunity to step up and join us.
That's great.
You know?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we are certainly here at the council stepping up and joining with you. And the gathering of warriors that we have, we are stepping up and are standing with you, because what you're doing is amazing, it's incredible, it's helpful, it speaks to the dignity of each person's soul and what lives within them, and that no story is not worth being shared, that every story counts, that every soul counts, and we're going to stand by you here on the council as much as we can.
Well, we have that in common.
So, I mean, we all both go to the same barber too. So I know when I first met you, we had something, we had a good thing going on here. So, folks, we just want to do a quick shout out again to KUHS Radio TV Denver. We are broadcasting live here in beautiful Denver, Colorado, and I just want to thank Henry and everybody in the back there for all the work that they do to make this go seamless, and to all the lighting and the sound and the connections to all of our different platforms all around the world. We couldn't do it without you, Henry, and everybody here at KUHS. Tune in, we got some great programs, a lot of wonderful people here, great music, outstanding music. So tune in, KUHSdenver.com. Robert, this has been fantastic, man.
It's been a pleasure.
I always ask my guests this last question before we close out the show.
I'm familiar.
If you could give one bit of advice, one bit of wisdom from your life experience, what would it be?
Don't project your standards onto other people, because in doing so, you miss the brilliance and perspective that they can offer.
Wow. Wow, that's deep, man. It's really life experience there. Don't project your expectations, your experiences onto others.
Entirely. Because they have something to offer, and not necessarily in your shadow.
Yes. Boy, if we had that perspective, we would be so much more open and available to listening, to accepting, to celebrating our uniqueness and diversity, and just it would be a much more peaceful and happier world, I think. Robert, thank you so much, sir, for being on the show today with us. Folks, it is bulletsandbandaids.org. That's www.bulletsandbandaids.org. Folks, thank you so much for tuning into the council today. We are adjourned. May you all be well. May you all be free of pain and suffering. May you all be whole. God bless everyone. We'll be back in a few weeks with another great show. Tune in. See you soon.